Hi guys, it's Tamara. Welcome back to my channel. Thank you so much for coming back. Today we're going to be talking about narcissism, but I'm going to take this topic and narrow it down to vulnerable narcissists. And I want to associate that and connect it with family. So thank you so much for coming back to my channel. For those who are subscribed and for those who are new, I encourage you to hit the subscribe button so you can stick around with us and continue to grow and learn in the topics related to human development and mental health and trauma. This channel is a trauma-informed, trauma-focused channel. So everything that I talk about has something to do with trauma. So today's topic is going to be talking about those abusive, overly bearing and overwhelming family members who make you feel like you have some sort of post-traumatic stress, okay? I do want to point out that I'm trying a different angle in my office today, trying some new lighting, using a different camera. So let me know how this looks to you and if you can see any differences. I'm always trying to mix things up and figure out how to make it better than I had it before. So let's just go ahead and jump into this topic because there's a couple things I want to point out. I want to point out at least 11 things, all right? So let's start with defining the vulnerable narcissist. So you can go to YouTube, right? And you can type in vulnerable narcissist, you can type in covert narcissism, and you're gonna get a full description of who they are, right? You're gonna, be able to listen to the video and learn some things about their behaviors. And every single video on YouTube talks about the vulnerable narcissist in terms of them being very pitiful and, them really having low self-esteem and insecurity. But I want to point out their sneaky, evil nature, because I think that's where we kind of jump off the boat, right? We don't understand that narcissism is not just a set of personality traits. Narcissism is a mindset, it's an attitude, and it's a set of behaviors that can negatively impact somebody else who is in the relationship with them. If we bring it into the category or context of family, these vulnerable narcissists can almost be completely destroying to you. That could be your mother, that could be your father, that could be your sibling, that could be your aunt and uncle, your grandparent, whatever it is, or whoever it is. It can devastate you, and it can change the way that you view relationships in life for the rest of your life. So the first characteristic that I think we miss when it comes to narcissism is that they have a quiet and shy, introverted disposition. Vulnerable narcissists really aren't as confident as we think. When we Google the term narcissism, when we Google the topic, we end up seeing articles that talk about this arrogance and this, kind of complacent attitude, right? This contentment, this grandiose sense of self. But with a vulnerable narcissist, okay, we're looking for a person who will kind of isolate and withdraw and go into the background. We're looking for an individual who's shy and quiet. But underneath that shy, quiet, introverted self is a sort of seething, grandiose, and arrogant disposition that says, I'm better than you. Even though I'm quiet, even though I'm introverted, even though I'm shy, they still carry this grandiose sense of self. They just don't flaunt it as much as the overt narcissist or the narcissist that we read about on Google or look up on YouTube. All right, so that's the number one sign. The second sign is a passive-aggressive nature. Now, you may have a family member who refuses to talk to you about the issues in the family. You may have a family member who completely refuses to talk to you about the trauma. But what they will do is they will slam doors. They will manipulate you by using somebody else, so they'll engage in triangulation. They may also spread rumors about you and say things about you to cause other people to turn on you. They may also refuse to answer your questions or engage in conversation with you. That's called stonewalling. Or they may do what I mentioned up here in the video, up here in my first video this week, is they may gaslight you, which is kind of minimizing and denying your sense of reality. It's the attempt to cause you to second guess yourself and second guess what you are seeing with your own eyes and feeling with your own intuition. So passive aggressive behavior with vulnerable narcissists is really evil because the intent is to appear as if they are noble, wonderful, empathetic, caring. But we know, those of us who are educated about the vulnerable narcissist, we know that they're just hiding behind that facade because they don't have any other way to communicate with the world. They haven't learned the skills needed to communicate with the world. So they put forth this facade of sensitivity and empathy, but underneath the surface, they are passive aggressive and manipulative. I actually worked with somebody so many years ago. She was an intern that was like that. And she was envious. She didn't like the fact that I was older, more experienced, that I was well liked among my colleagues. And so every time she would come into a room with me, she would sigh. If I would talk to her, she'd cross her arms. If I would walk by her, she would slam a door. Like, it was so passive aggressive. And I realized in that particular relationship over time that, okay, she's a narcissist and she doesn't like the fact that I'm getting the attention here as the newbie who's experienced and different and unique and new. She doesn't like that. So she's going to try to make my life difficult by slamming doors and acting very immature. So that's the passive aggressive behavior. Okay. The next one is insecure and a weak ego. So narcissists who are vulnerable struggle with a weak sense of self. They haven't developed a healthy ego. It's okay for children, who are brought into this world up until about adolescence to have a sort of, self-centeredness, right? Some kind of egocentric way about themselves. That's natural. But mature adults grow out of that, right? We realize over time, typically by the time we get to our 20s, that, okay, life doesn't revolve around me. So when we begin to ingest and digest that, okay, other people deserve my attention, other people are going through this, that, and the other, when we develop a moral sense of empathy, we don't allow ourselves to be egocentric, most of us. But a narcissist, okay, remains in that immature state. And because they're vulnerable, right, they don't have the skills that they need. They don't know how to put themselves forward. They don't know how to be confident and balanced in the way that they view life and themselves. So when you have a vulnerable narcissist, you're going to see the immature, egocentric behavior. So, I think that's something to look out for. We're used to narcissists being very arrogant and very pushy and dominant. And unfortunately, there's another type of narcissist who's very vulnerable in the world. And because of that, they seek to destroy you, but in a very silent way. As a matter of fact, we could just title this The Silent Killer, because that's kind of what they do. They silently try to dominate you and harm you and kill you, and sometimes even literally kill you, and act like nothing ever happened. All right. The next one, guys, is fake sincerity. Vulnerable narcissists have absolutely no idea how to be empathetic, and they can't fake it. You almost feel this sense of falseness. You almost feel this sense of unauthentic behavior, right? They don't strike you as genuine or caring at all. You're pretty much on your own. So that's another thing to look out for. Now, you may find a vulnerable narcissist, which this happens a lot, portray themselves as a pastor, a bishop, a therapist, a counselor, some kind of altruistic individual who volunteers and donates all the time. That's what's tricky about the vulnerable narcissist. They come across as loving and caring and considerate of others, but when you get to know that person on a personal level, then you begin to realize that this individual is just putting up a mask, right? They're putting up a facade because they don't know how to be sincere. All right. So fake sincerity. The next one is they really do care deeply, but only about themselves. Okay. All right. They only care deeply about themselves. They do not care about you. They don't want to get to know you. They don't want to respect you or to value you or to embrace you. The only reason a vulnerable narcissist wants to know who you are is so they can use whatever they learn about you against you. You may have a family member, a cousin, a distant relative who only contacts you to compete with you. They want to know what you're doing in your life so that they can do more, right? Or maybe they congratulate you, but they also give you a side comment that's pretty derogatory. I had a colleague do that to me years ago, and she said, "You know what? You are such a great therapist. I really can't believe that you aren't more famous." So I'm like, what? And I was like 22 years old. I was really young and experienced. And, there I was, the kind me. Oh, thank you so much. But then when I walked away and gained more experience in life, I looked back and I'm like, wait a minute, that was a backward handed comment. Like, she literally said, you're a good therapist, but I'm surprised you're not more famous. So she was very arrogant, okay? And have I had family members who have done things like that? Most definitely, and I'm sure you have too. And it's like this backward comment, right? They're congratulating you or they're praising you, but then they say something derogatory. So they don't care about you. They don't care to get to know you. They may portray, again, certain behaviors, but that's only to gain some information about you so they can use it against you. All right. The next one is that they portray themselves as popular, as highly educated, as highly gifted and experienced, and yet their perception of themselves doesn't line up with your perception of them. So for example, you may have a mother who believes that she's the best mother in the world, and the only way that she can self-identify or praise herself is to tell other people that she's a great mom, is to carry herself like she's a wonderful parent, right? You know the truth of the matter. You know she's abusive. You know she's manipulative. You know she's ungiving, or maybe I should say not giving. Okay, this just sounds weird. You also know, I'll put it this way, she's not charitable, right? You also know that she's not a dedicated, sensitive, patient parent. Does she go out in public in society and act like that? Of course. She only cares about her own reputation, which is the next point I'm going to make. But she only cares about her own reputation. It has nothing to do with you. There are some people who will have children within a family just to prove that they're caring and they're sensitive and they're patient and, they have what it takes to be a parent. So yeah, this is another facade that they use. They really do portray themselves as being loving, giving parents, loving, caring pastors, loving, caring therapists and counselors. It's a frightening reality. But when they do refer to themselves in this way, or they paint the picture to others that they're this way, their reality is disproportionate to your reality, right? So they hold themselves up here when really they're down here. I remember seeing a family overseas using telehealth. I think this was 3 years ago, and wonderful family, but unfortunately the father saw himself as a wonderful father, a wonderful example, and the children did not see him the same way. And so what he did is, because I wasn't familiar with the family, I was new, he portrayed himself to me as this loving, giving, patient, money-making father who did everything for his children. The reality of that was that his perception of himself was way up here, and the children's perception of him was way down here. His perception was disproportionate to, his perception of himself, I should say, was disproportionate to other people's perception of him. So in other words, he was delusional, okay? So let's go to the next one, which is delusions of grandeur. Vulnerable narcissists really don't have what it takes to step out and be confident. They don't have what it takes to gain a career that's going to be rewarding to them. They don't know how to be empathetic. So if they get into the helping professions, or they become a bishop, a pastor, or something like that, they're not going to be able to feel fulfilled because they don't have empathy. They don't know how to connect with others, and quite frankly, they don't care to. So because of that, they end up in a delusional state about other people and how others view them, and about themselves. They're highly delusional. And unfortunately, it tends to be delusions of grandeur, meaning that they, again, see themselves in a different light than what reality is. It's a sad reality, but that's how they operate. The next is that they are constantly looking for something to stimulate them. They are power hungry. They are stimulation hungry. And if that means, stealing from you, lying, cheating, manipulating, spreading rumors, whatever, they will do it. Again, they don't have the life skills. They don't have the personality skills. They don't have the behavioral skills to actually manage relationships appropriately. So as a result, they create triangles and they create all kinds of chaos around you, and then they walk by you and smile like nothing ever happened. That's what makes them a vulnerable narcissist. They're very covert. They're under the radar. And to me, that is the worst kind of evil. Worst kind of evil. All right. The next one, again, and I'm going to bring this back up again because this is highly important. They lack empathy. Okay, they don't care about you. And the reason I'm driving this point home, and I keep mentioning this, is because this is the hallmark feature of a vulnerable narcissist. They try to appear as if they care. They do not care. And because you may be a caring person, or you may be somebody who is able to reciprocate in a relationship and you can give and take, right? You may feel that that other person really cares about you, but the reality is that they don't. They know how to pretend, all right? The next is that they are socially aloof, right? These may be the individuals who isolate. They may go to the side and kind of, hide, right? These individuals do not know how to communicate in a relationship, so they are socially aloof and socially awkward, okay? I also want to mention two final things. The next is that, they have this sort of sense of self-importance that leads them to try to achieve these high levels of success that they're not really educated to achieve. They're not really skilled to achieve, but they're going to try to climb up anyway because, again, their fantasy and their delusion and their self-image is very disproportionate to reality. So you may have a family member that, kind of flaunts themselves as being highly educated, but when it's time to sit down and do simple math, they can't do a thing, okay? And last but not least, they depend on the admiration of others. The only way that they can survive is when they are getting admiration and other people are looking at them and praising them. Sometimes they can be so sick with the need for admiration that they will try to push you out of the way, the one who deserves the true admiration. It really is an interesting dynamic, and I'm going to continue to talk about these things, guys. I'm going to come back on Friday, and I'm going to pull some of these things apart for you. I kind of give you a brief overview, but I want to go back on Friday and kind of pull these things apart. So thank you so much for being with me today in this video. I encourage you to give it a thumbs up if it was helpful to you, and go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you can stick around with us. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below. All right, I'll see you on Friday.